In this video, we're going to be talking about the best efforts analysis in a Chapter 13 case. Now, this is a little bit complicated, so I'll do my best to give you a simple example. If you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a liquidation bankruptcy, meaning anything that is non-exempt, anything that is not protected under a state or federal exemption can be liquidated from you. In a Chapter 13, they will force you to pay into your bankruptcy plan the minimum you would have had to pay into a Chapter 7. Okay, so maybe a little confusing, but here's an example. Here in Los Angeles, your Chapter 13 homestead exemption is roughly $600,000. This means that you can exempt $600,000 of home equity on your principal residence. However, if you have $700,000 in home equity, that $100,000 difference between the $600,000 and $700,000 is non-exempt. So if you filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and your house had $700,000 in equity, the first $600,000 would be protected. The next $100,000 unexempt could be liquidated and paid into a Chapter 7. So in that analysis, how much money would you have to pay into a Chapter 7? The answer is $100,000 because of the $700,000 in equity, only $600,000 is protected, leaving $100,000 of unprotected, non-exempt equity. So you probably wouldn't file a Chapter 7 in this scenario. You would opt to file a Chapter 13 so you weren't forced to sell your home. But what the Chapter 13 trustee would apply is the best efforts analysis, which means in a Chapter 7, you would have paid your creditors that $100,000. So in a Chapter 13, you have to pay your creditors that same $100,000. That is the best efforts analysis, as simply explained as possible. So how does that play out? That means you have to pay your unsecured, your Class 5 general unsecured creditors, which is typically credit cards, at least $100,000. So if you have $200,000 in credit card debt in this scenario, your credit card will get paid $100,000 during the life of your Chapter 13 plan. Now, some people may ask, but I only have $50,000 in credit card debt. Okay, if you have $50,000 in credit card debt, but you're required to pay $100,000 in credit card debt, very simple. You'll just pay back the $50,000. You don't have to pay more than 100% of what you owe. You don't have to pay any more than you actually owe to these credit cards. So if your best efforts analysis is saying you got to pay $100,000, but you only owe $50,000, then you set up your Chapter 13 plan as what's called a 100% plan, and you pay back the $50,000 in credit card debt. How much does that amount to? $50,000 divided by 60 months. I think that's $833 per month. And please note, that's only the portion going to your unsecured creditors. You may have some priority debt, like IRS debt, tax debt, or you may have some mortgage arrears. So that does not account for the unsecured portion. So one more example, if you owe your mortgage company $20,000, you owe the IRS $10,000, you owe your credit cards $50,000. And your best efforts analysis says you have to pay at least $100,000 to your credit cards. You would have to pay the $20,000 to the mortgage, the $10,000 to the IRS, and then the $50,000 to your credit cards. So you would essentially have an $80,000 Chapter 13 plan. So in this scenario, you take $80,000 because that's paying all classes and divide that by 60, and that becomes your monthly bankruptcy payment. Now, there's a lot of different ins and outs of the best effort analysis because you're comparing different sets of exemptions and you're comparing different chapters of bankruptcy and different classes of debt. So if you have any specific questions as it relates to your case, feel free to message me below. My name is Joshua Sternberg. This is Sternberg Law Group. We'd be happy to help you and get back to you with any questions you may have. Okay? Have a great day. Thank you for taking the time.